Please welcome Dr. Obie. Doc, good evening to you.
Hi.
Welcome to the show, Doc. I hear you're way out in El Paso, Texas. How's it going out there?
It's going great. It's going great. Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. Thank you so much for coming on, Doc. I know that you're busy. I'm very intrigued by your story and what you do. You are not only an emergency medicine specialist, but you're also a cannabinoligist, the study of cannabis. So let's talk about, for our viewers, what is a cannabinologist?
A cannabinoligist is just like a biologist, a chemist, an engineer. It's someone who specializes in the sciences of the cannabis plant. It also is someone who specializes in the sciences of the human endocannabinoid system, which is a system that governs the human body, that is also very, very friendly and synonymous to the plant cannabis physiology. And so a cannabinologist studies how the cannabis plant can help the human body and to help to service the endocannabinoid system, which every human being has.
So, Dr. Obie, what made you want to specialize in this particular area?
Well, I come from a line of women. I'm Nigerian. That's my culture. That's my heritage. And I come from a line of women who were medicine women or shamans. And well, that's what the synonymous term would be for the term that describes my heritage, the women in my family. And so my father raised us all to be very close to nature and to utilize nature as much as possible in healing. And so in my studies in medical school, I started to kind of deviate towards herbalism. And I spent a lot of time in medical school, after medical school and residency, and after residency, being very curious about herbal medicine and native medicine. Because of that, I came across a lot of plants that in this country we have illegalized, but are actually very helpful and utilized every day in other cultures for medicine. In that process, years ago, about 6 years ago now, I was introduced to marijuana. Marijuana is a very unique plant. Of all the herbs that I've studied, of all the herbs that I've ingested, and of all the herbs that I've used to help other people heal, because it has a system called the cannabinoid system that balances our endocannabinoid system. And for those of you, many people don't know, the endocannabinoid system is a system that is created inside of us to create homeostasis, which is a balance. All of our systems need that balance so that they don't go into chaos. And the endocannabinoid system does that. And so when I discovered cannabis to be so friendly to this system, I realized that real healing comes from manipulating human endocannabinoid system, and cannabis is really one of the only plants that does that.
So, Dr. Obie, kind of clarify the difference between THC and CBD, because we see all kind of CBD stores and shops that are popping up on every single corner. What is the difference?
So THC and CBD are two of over 100 pieces of the cannabis plant. THC is the most popular, well-known one, in a constituent or piece of the cannabis plant because it causes this high. A high is generally a euphoria. It is a feeling that you get. Some people describe it as floating or loopy or drug. CBD, by contrast, does not produce this high. They both, though, produce healing effects. So the high is actually healing in a fun way, whereas CBD heals you with much less of that psychoactive
So
effect.
can you get addicted to THC, even the kind that you were to prescribe?
That is an excellent question. All things are addictive because
What does that mean?
all things are addictive. The addictive pathway, why a person becomes addicted, has to do with their personality, their upbringing, and what their affinity, what they like, what they tend to like. And so when we talk about getting addicted, we're really talking about being attracted to something that we really like a lot. And so when we talk about those things, we're really just talking about something that we really like a lot, that releases a specific chemical in the brain.
So if something is addictive, why would I take it? That's kind of part number one. Part number two, if I'm taking medical marijuana and my job were to drug test me and I fail my drug test, but I'm saying that it was prescribed by a doctor, how does that work?
Um, if you tend to be addicted to something, for example, we have patients that are addicted to water. So you wouldn't tell someone you shouldn't take water if you're addicted. But in contrast, THC, CBD, marijuana, aspirin, these are medicines. You really should only be taking them if you require them for your health or for your healing. As far as drug testing, the substance that we drug test for is actually THC. It's not CBD, it's not CBG, it's not CBD, it's not THCA, it's not THCV, which are the many other constituents that are also having healing properties in the cannabis plant. So if you are interested in taking cannabis for medicine, then there are many, many properties, including terpenes, which we can talk about in a second, that will not show up on a drug test, that are totally safe. And by the way, marijuana, including THC, has one of the lowest addictive profiles of all of the drugs. We're talking about drugs that include ibuprofen, steroids like corticosteroids like prednisone, and morphine. So of our medications that we have available, we are discovering that there are many constituents inside of the plant that have a very low addictive profile, like CBD, and THC in very low doses is also not been correlated with addiction. By the way, I'm going to say it again, addiction has to do with a natural substance that we make in our brains that's stimulated when we take a substance that we like, that we're attracted to.
At what point would you tell someone they need to enroll in a substance use treatment because they have a cannabis use disorder?
So all addiction is defined by the craving or the constant search for a substance or thing, including love or shopping, that disrupts your life and causes you to have some sort of outcome that is not favorable or damaging to your standard life. So if that is happening with cannabis, you should immediately seek help. And it's not something that you should be ashamed of. I'm speaking to all cultures. I'm speaking to all genders. It is not something that you should be ashamed of because it has to do with this natural substance that occurs in your brain. And it is, in fact, a disease, just like heart disease.
It seems like everybody's getting high. So is there a percentage or a percentile of America that actually has smoked cannabis at one point in their life? Or are there still people out there who've never tried it, who are curious, which can be the first stage leading into addiction?
Of the adults over age 18, because of course we have to exclude children. There are many children that will have never tried the substance. But of the adults over age 18, I mean, there's some statistics, and these statistics are very difficult to come by because we haven't polled all billion people on the planet. But there's something like 70% of Americans have tried marijuana in some form. I don't know how accurate that statistic is, but that leaves another 20-30% that haven't tried it at all. I have my opinions, but
So do you ever feel that cannabis will be legalized in the state of Texas?
cannabis is legal in Texas. We have a
Okay.
medical marijuana program. It's called the Texas Compassionate Use Program, and it came into legalization in 2015.
Okay.
It is it can only be obtained by qualification. So there are about 8 qualifications that are standard now that will qualify you to receive a recommendation from a physician and a registration in the Compassionate Use Registry of Texas, which will allow you to go to one of 3 licensed dispensaries in the state that will either deliver to you, or you can go to the facility and pick it up.
And this is CBD, not THC.
This is THC.
This is THC.
Medical marijuana. Yes.
Okay. So if I have a medical marijuana card and I'm taking THC for a medical issue, are there stipulations of where and when I can take the drug?
You cannot smoke legal medical marijuana. They do not offer smokable products. That includes vaporizing, aerosolizing, and flower. There is a cap on the THC amount, so the dry weight can be no more than 0.5% THC of the total product. And you are allowed to consume it in your home. Many places will not allow you to consume it on their property, and you cannot consume it on government property.
Okay. So I noticed, I was in New York earlier this year, and I saw all of the colorful vans that had all the cannabis vans, the lollipops, the brownies, the different bright colors that are really attractive to the young kids. Do you think that our children are being exposed to the whole cannabis world at a young age?
Well, let me tell you, parents should be allowed to shield their children from what they believe those children need to be exposed to. But I will tell you this, a healthy society involves the truth. Children can only be kept safe, in my opinion, if they know where the danger is. In my opinion, medication can be dangerous to children both because of their size and underdeveloped anatomy, but also because of their curiosity and their tend towards impulse and excess.
So Doc, that's a great point that you made. I would think that, and I could be wrong, that cannabis would be a gateway drug into something more severe. Is there any truth to that, or is that just a myth?
I want to be careful of the propaganda that historically has been used to further one agenda in opposition of another. While I do agree with the need to protect the public, I do not agree with the use of terminology that does not allow the individual to know the information. That takes away informed consent. And so gateway drug was actually a terminology utilized to help create propaganda and further something called the war on drugs. The war on drugs was an agenda that was necessary in order to make sure that drugs were not available on the street. When we get a little bit deeper into that history, which we won't go into today, we will further understand where the term gateway comes from. In my opinion, cannabis is a gateway drug for knowledge. When you understand the cannabinoid system, you understand the human system called the endocannabinoid system. And in my opinion, this is where we will start to discover a lot of things, a lot of innovations, medical innovations that will lead towards something we call healing. What we utilize in the United States is treatment. And I meet a lot of patients that are sick and tired of being treated and taught how to deal with illness rather than to heal it. Heal means cure. Cure means to restore. And our restorative is the endocannabinoid system. It's meant to do that. And so a lot of this propaganda that led to calling things like cannabis a gateway drug caused them to be placed on a schedule called Schedule 1, which means there is absolutely no health benefit and only harm. It is impossible. We know that cannabis has been utilized for over 5,000 years, and the United States has a patent on over 80 neurological
Wow.
benefits. So we know that it has healing properties. We know that it has health benefits, and we know that it has a very low addictive profile.
Wow. Well,
So
Doc, we sure appreciate you coming on. Your knowledge in this field is just amazing. And promise me one thing, that you will come back and drop some more knowledge on the show in the near future.
absolutely, if you'll have me, I'll be here.
Hey, everybody. This is Dr. Oga, who is an emergency medicine doctor, but also you want to pronounce that, Doc?
Cannbinologist.
Cannbinologist. There you go. The study of cannabis. Thank you for an educational session, Doc. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.